guys, and welcome to this week's episode of TRUUU Podcast. I'm your host, Drea.
And I'm host, Alex.
And this week, we're coming at you again with the same thing we've been doing this whole season, which it's, Alex is going to tell me about something that I don't know about. So I'm very eager to know because last week was fun, and the week before was fun, and the week before that was fun. So
I think that'll be something you actually really enjoy. I think it's really up your alley, although I'm hoping that you don't know any of this stuff already.
Ooh, I'm excited.
I think that you're into this, but you're not into it enough to maybe already know it.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes.
Ooh, fun. Okay. Well, before we do that, why don't you tell us about your week update first?
Awesome. So it's been a busy week, man. So last week had my replacement starting at work. So I was training her and stuff, which is cool. And then today had my counterpart start today. So more training and like all this stuff, because like part of like what I was doing is like making sure that all of them get set up on the tech stuff that they need. And then obviously I'm spending a lot of time training my replacement and such because, can't just like let her be on her own per se, like after only a week. So I'm still like sitting with her doing stuff, but she's catching on. She's doing a good job.
Would you say that like you feel like you're kind of doing two jobs right now?
I mean, I have been doing two jobs since the beginning of July, but now it's a little bit more intense in the sense of I'm actually training someone else to do it, because it's a little bit different when I, in my own mind, know what I'm doing, but then I need to communicate those responsibilities to another person, which is, good, and she's doing a good job. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah. Next big thing was Michael meeting some of the crew, man. That was fun.
I want to give feedback, but for those who are just listening, I'm eating. So tell us about it a little bit. I'll give my feedback right now.
Okay. Yeah, so my Drea had some free time open up on Saturday night and ended up becoming a game night thing. I brought Michael to meet some of the homies, and it was a good time. We played some fun games. Much fun to be had by all, I think.
Yeah, it was really nice because like obviously Alex has been dating this guy for officially you guys have been together for like a month now.
2 months this week.
2 months. Okay, well that's even worse. So you guys
actually, let me look at the calendar real quick because I think it actually might be 2 months on the day this releases.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Okay, well, yeah, so they've been dating for 2 months officially, and then before that they've been talking for 2 months before that too.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a 4-month kind of excursion, and I hadn't met him yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that was okay, here's the thing.
For you? It was hard for you?
It was challenging. But here's the thing. I respected, I know that not everyone, when you're in a new relationship or you're dating someone, whatever, not everyone wants to introduce them because you're what if it doesn't work out? It's getting too intense too fast. I totally get it. I, on the other hand, and not necessarily with the people I'm dating, but with the people I'm friends with dating other people, I just want to be in the know.
Right. You wanted to meet him after the first date.
Yeah. I was just okay, when is he coming over? So I have been really patient. I need to give myself credit because I have not been pushing it. I've been letting it happen. And I'm happy to say that I finally have met him, and he's a nice guy. So all good things. Michael, if you're listening, you're okay.
What a high praise from you, Drea.
Well, I mean, obviously, here's the thing. I didn't get to know him very, very much off of a one day, we're playing games. So I don't want to sit here and be oh my God, he's amazing. And then a month later, we're just oh, we hate that guy, which I'm sure is not going to happen. Which I'm sure is not going to happen. I guarantee you it's not going to happen. But I just feel I shouldn't be oh my God, he's amazing. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So he's good.
That's funny. Anyway, so that was fun. And so today, dude, it was so sad. I got faked out by the DMV. So here's what happened, right? So remember back in May, I went into AAA to ask about my ridiculous registration, whatever.
Yeah, go on.
And they told me about hey, yeah, we'll renew your registration for you right now, even with your name all messed up. And then once you get your title, like bring it in, we'll fix it, and then we'll fix your registration as well. So there was that, right? So I got my registration renewed months ago. And today I was getting the mail in the mailbox because I was the first one home today. So I was just like, I'll just go get the mail. And right on top is a envelope addressed to me with the crazy last name from the DMV. And like I had just a couple days prior, so on Saturday, I just finally received the mail from the bank that had done the loan for my car, saying like the official release of lien thing. Like I finally had that official documentation, whatever. So I get a letter from the DMV today. And I'm just like, man, is this it? Is this the title? You know, is it finally over? And then I open it and it's literally just a notice saying like, this is official notice saying that your registration was renewed. You probably already have the sticker, but you know, just in case you don't, it's renewed. And I'm kind of like, thanks for telling me something I already knew. Like I renewed it like 3 months ago.
I feel like that's exactly what I was going to say. Cause like, I feel like confirmation messages are like really helpful to ensure that you get the service done. You know, like if you make an appointment, for example, you get a confirmation message, you go there, they're just like, we don't have it. And you're like, well, I have a message here, you know, like kind of thing. But like when you already have everything and they send you a confirmation after the fact, it's like, what's the purpose?
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, what do I need this letter for? This is never, well, I mean, I guess because maybe I renewed it through AAA and that was like what's different about it. Because like, I've never received a confirmation before.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's like, how disappointing is that? I've been just like waiting to get my title in the mail. And still the saga continues. I thought I was done. Because like, seriously, because like I got home at a pretty reasonable time. So I'm just kind of like, man, if this is the title, I'm going to book it over to AAA right now and just get this thing done. Same day, knock it out. But no.
Well, you're like one step closer though, right?
I guess.
I'm looking at it half full.
Right. Well, yeah, that's been me this week. How's your week been, Drea?
My week's been okay. Not eventful, really. I had my last class at Laverne, because you know how I was like having to do one class at Laverne while I'm doing my degree at Whittier or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I had my last class finally last week, thank God, done with it. And so other than that, I've literally just been like trying to relax before I start student teaching next week, because that's coming up fast. And like today, so I emailed my master teacher. I was like, hey, I'm going to be with you for the first 8 weeks, da 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 da. And so he replies, he's like, great, like this is the book I'm planning to teach at the beginning of the semester. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, thank you for telling me, so helpful. But I'm like, I need to read this right now because I've never heard of this book. Like, it's not one of the like main canons, which is kind of the reason I chose to have this person as my master teacher, because like he's just so like non-traditional, more of like what's the word, like trying to be inclusive to like a lot of different like ideas, genres, cultures, da 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 da, which is right up my alley. So like he chose this book, which amazing for him. That's not like a popular text for like high school. It's not one I've ever heard of. And so I'm just like, I got to read this right now. So I just like placed an order on Amazon, and that will be definitely what consumes me for like the next week to come, being that I start on Monday. Other than that, not really anything other than obviously like I met Michael, which I kind of mentioned was really fun, but we like played a bunch of games with like our friends and like that was cool. Yeah, not a lot to talk about this week. I feel like it's been like a low week.
Hopefully amongst your book reading, you'll have time to start playing Animal Crossing.
Oh my God, literally it's like I have 1 week off and then I have a book to read.
Killing me.
So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, okay, well, since we both like kind of have not too much to share, let's move into the meat of the podcast, Alex. So what are you going to inform me about today?
So I really think that you're going to like this. So this is haunted / spooky / supernatural happenings that have happened on movie sets.
Ooh, okay. I actually know a good amount. I probably don't know the ones you've mentioned, but whenever I see an article, it's like creepy things that happened during the filming of Harry Potter, you know, like I always click that. And also before you start, I have something to share specifically about this topic right now.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, like really quick. today I was at my mom's house. I guess I could have said this in the week thing, but I forgot. I was at my mom's house. We were having lunch outside. And like we'd been going in and out, like consistently, nothing big. And my mom goes in to like get tortillas or something like that. And she comes out, she closes the glass sliding door. And then my dad like tries to go in, or no, my mom tries to go back in, and she like tries to open the door and it's locked. And she was like, Hector, like my dad, she's like, Hector, did you lock the door when you came out? And he was like, no, like you can't lock that door from the outside because it's one of those like those latch locks that you have to do from the inside. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So we were just like, what the heck? So it was locked. Like legit for a second, I thought my mom just was like weak and she couldn't open it. So I was like, let me open it. So I like pull it. I'm like, oh no, this is locked. And so like we had to get like our like hidden spare key or whatever and like come in through the side, go in, open that door. It was full on locked. Like the whole thing was like up. And I was like, what the heck? And my mom was even just like, what's going on? So then she tried to recreate because she was just like, maybe it was like on the precipice.
Yeah.
And then we like, closed the door real hard and it like swung down. So we were trying to recreate that and it would not, because like the lock is not a very like it needs some WD-40 because it is not like very like fluid. Like it's a very stiff lock. So like it was impossible to recreate it. We were putting it on the very edge and like slamming the door and it would not fall. So I'm just like, dang, we were visited by Casper today. Anyway, get into the topic.
Well, I'm hoping that you don't actually know any of these because these are all horror movie specific, and I don't think that you watch horror movies.
I don't, but I think I might know a few. But go ahead.
All right, so I collected these. I'll say a couple things at the get-go. One, this is another thing that Michael suggested to me because he was just like, "Oh, so what are you gonna do for your next topic?" And I was like, "Oh, I know," because this was before we had done yours, so this is still a while out yet. So like he was looking through articles and whatever.
Oh, he was looking through, because I was gonna say like he suggested horror movies even though he hates horror movies.
Yes.
That's so funny. Okay, go on.
Yeah, he was going through like articles or whatever. I don't know how he stumbled across this one specifically. I think maybe because he had heard of it or something, and he found an article for me on Goliath.com that had, listed different like crazy happenings, and then I looked a little bit more into it, and there's some like for BuzzFeed and stuff too. So it's a combination of all those things. Got to cite your sources, man, especially since anything from the internet, who knows if it's true. But whatever.
If it's like little stories from BuzzFeed, there is a high chance that I've read it.
I guess we'll find out.
Let's see. Go ahead.
All right, so one of them is from the movie The Possession from 2012. All right, so a like really, really concise, because I'll give like summaries of some of these movies that I'm mentioning if I feel like it's relevant to what the spooky happening was.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know what this movie is.
So The Possession is about a family that comes into possession of a debuk box, which is a dislocated spirit from Jewish mythology. Like that's what a debuk is. And the spirit of this is in this box. And the spirit possesses one of the daughters and much chaos ensues. So, it's like the typical like horror movie trope where it's just like, oh, the kid's communing with the spirit and whatever. And the parents are just like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then all this really crazy stuff happens.
That is literally, that's like a trope that I hate because I'm like, if I have a kid and they're just like, oh, Billy is staring at me, I'd be like, we're getting out of this house.
Yeah, basically. All right. So the main thing here was there's other like spooky happenings on this movie set where like lights would explode and stuff. Like I think it was like $5,000 like worth of lighting like exploded around the set and whatever during different things. But the big thing here is that the storage facility where all the props are being stored caught fire and burned to the ground. The cause of the fire was determined by investigators to be undetermined. One of the props that was burned was the debug box, and the casting crew refused to replace it because they feared it was cursed.
Okay. What? Here's the thing. I don't necessarily think that this is 100% supernatural. because there's a lot of instances where like if you're using the wrong like what is it, wattage or whatever of like light bulbs, it can like explode.
It was determined that was not electrical causes either.
Okay. Who's determining this? Are they qualified?
I mean, it was like real investigators and like arson investigators and stuff. Like actual people being like, hey, what caused this fire, man? Like actual authorities.
Interesting. I mean, like I obviously strongly believe in the supernatural, obviously, but I also like to see like what possible alternatives could be suggested. For this one, if they're legitimately like unable to come up with some sort of reason, I definitely believe that like an energy could have been like maybe like if like I don't know, the energy like manifested in like because you know sometimes like spirits can control or like, can communicate through like turning on and off flashlights.
Sure.
Like maybe sure. Maybe have you not seen BuzzFeed Unsolved in the Sally house?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have.
You don't remember?
I'm fairly certain I have.
When,
fairly certain I have because it was one of the beginning ones, right?
It was like it's the one that's like a 3-parter. It's like they go to the island of the dolls.
Yeah,
in
that's like the super beginning. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, and the thing was like turning on and off. Anyway, yes. So I feel like yeah, I can see this being supernatural.
Right. So yeah, creepy stuff or whatever. And then next movie we got The Exorcism of Emily Rose. So as you can imagine, this movie was about a chick called Emily Rose who got exorcised. So a priest is tried with the murder of Emily Rose, who died during an exorcism. The lawyer defending the case also has spooky things happen to her as she's investigating and whatever. So like during like the testimony and stuff during the trial in the movie, that's how you see flashbacks into like what happened in, you know, the exorcism stuff. So the lead actress who plays Emily Rose, Jennifer Carpenter, and other cast and crew members experienced weird phenomena in their hotel rooms. The radio in her hotel room would mysteriously turn on and off, and every time the radio would turn on, it would play Alive by Pearl Jam. Apparently, other cast and crew members also had their radios and TVs that randomly turn on, and when their radios would turn on, it would be playing the same Pearl Jam song. So they eventually had all the radios removed from their hotel rooms because it freaked them out too much.
Here's the thing. I 100% believe in this story. And let me tell you why. When me and my sister used to live in our first house in West Covina, we had this problem that plagued us. I think I've told you about this. It plagued us where every single day, at different times of the day, we had this like stereo system in our room, and it would just randomly turn on full volume and like just play like out of nowhere. And we were like, we were going crazy. My mom was like convinced that we had like a timer on it, which timers you don't put a timer for it to turn on, you put a timer for it to turn off. Second of all, it was never at the same time, it would just happen randomly. Third of all, our room was at the very freaking end of the house, so it's not like someone like went there, turned it on, and escaped before we got there, you know. So radios, man, I don't know, there's something.
I can't say that I've ever experienced a radio randomly turning on in like, you know, weird moments.
Yeah, me and Danielle, that's one thing that like we're just like, what the hell is happening right now? So yeah, that's probably really accurate.
All right, so next one we got going on, The Conjuring from 2013. Have you heard anything about this? Because you're nodding your head here.
Yeah, I have. This is like a bunch of things happen on set, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
There was like things with like okay, you go.
I'll get into it. Let me say the thing. All right, so a little bit of a synopsis. I mean, kind of a synopsis. Is, you know, a family in the 70s moves into a house that is possessed by a demon, a witch who had killed her child and then herself. Demonic stuff happens because it always does, and it's one of those movies that's about like the case files of like Ed and Lorraine Warren. So they're demonologists who like, you know, do all this creepy stuff. So this was based on events that happened to the Perron family. Several of the members of the actual family visited set during filming, and there was one instance where the family was on set and a strong wind came up and swirled around them, but apparently the trees opposite them were not moving. So it seemed to be a supernatural wind of some kind. And then the hotel where the cast and crew were staying caught fire and the hotel had to be evacuated. Director James Wan thinks that his dog was growling at some unseen spiritual entity while he was working late one night. Like, he was working late, the dog was growling. He went to go investigate and it was just staring off into the distance growling. Vera Farmiga, the actress who plays Lorraine Warren, was haunted by claw marks apparently a couple times. So right after she signed on to the feature, she opened her like she was talking on the phone to someone, opened up her laptop screen, there was these 3 slash marks on there, I guess, or claw marks. And then at a different point in time she had 3 claw marks on her thigh that kind of matched it as well, although it seemed like it was just those 2 instances, which, you know, to me is inconclusive on whether or not those things are real, I guess, as far as like real being connected. And then she also apparently kept waking up at what is quote unquote witching hour. So at 3 a.m., actually 3:07, when I think the murder was supposed to have taken place or whatever in the movie. And then actress Joey King, who played one of the daughters, was apparently covered in mysterious bruises after a couple of weeks of filming. And she didn't take part in any of the stunt scenes, I guess. So there was no explanation on how she got those bruises. Go for it, Drea.
Yeah, so this is one that I did read because there was just so much. I mean, I feel like at a certain point, like maybe if, like, you know, for example, today, the door getting locked on us, you know, like, that's so minuscule. It has to be an explanation. But I feel like at some point when there's like a million things that is happening to the different people, like not just one person, it's like, okay, like how many explanations can you really come up for, like, or come up with to explain all this? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think especially because this movie is like, and I think The Exorcism of Emily Rose is also based on a true story, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so too.
I feel like the movies that are based on true stories probably have more, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Possibility of there being a connection between like spirits and like the people trying to portray it. And I have one example that is not supernatural. Well, I take it back, but not like a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
But do you remember like the movie Passion of the Christ?
Yeah.
Did you ever watch it?
I've seen bits and pieces.
Okay, not important. I was just wondering. But like the guy who was portraying Jesus, like while he was portraying Jesus, he was like struck by lightning like 2 times. Like while he was like being Jesus. And I'm just like, the possibilities of you being struck by lightning once are astronomical. The possibilities of you being struck twice during like the same period of time doing the same thing seem unlikely entirely.
Right.
So things like that, I'm like, there has to be supernatural affiliation.
Now, here's my thing with like, especially the last 3, which are like more demon-centric horror sort of movies, is that like a couple things come to mind when I think of like all these spooky things happening, whatever, which I can't, you know, comment really on 2 of them involving like fires burning things down, because, you know, I really don't know what to say there, I guess. But I will say that there's a couple things that kind of just don't sit well with me when it comes to this sort of stuff. So I don't understand how one can really get into a headspace to be in one of these kinds of movies. Because I feel like in order to do a movie about like demons and demonic possession and stuff, I feel like you're already opening yourself up to it too much, you know?
I absolutely 100% agree.
I'm not entirely surprised that like maybe like crazy things ended up happening on sets like these, because I'm just kind of like, if you open yourself up too much, I think that stuff maybe could happen. Like that could be real. and it makes me very uncomfortable.
I mean, even to like, I'm not an actress, like I'm not putting myself in those situations, but even like in just normal life, I don't put myself in situations where I feel like I'm opening myself up to like attack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is actually something, I'm glad you brought it up because it's something I think about a lot. It's like, I just try to think about like, if I were an actress and if I were to be in a horror movie, like how terrifying that would be. And just like acting in general, because like, okay, I was reading a BuzzFeed article about like the movie The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So the scene where the Joker comes out when like what's his face, Bruce Wayne, is having that party and he's like, where's the Batman? And then like what's her face, the girl, his like boo thing, whatever, what's her name? She like comes out and she's like, he's not here. And then he like grabs her face and he's like, why so serious? Like what I'm talking about? The scene I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I was reading that apparently that actress, what's her name? Gyllenhaal?
Maggie
Gyllenhaal. She wasn't told that he was gonna like do that whole like scene. Like she was just told that scene was like he was coming to look for him. She was gonna say he's not here, and that was gonna be the end. But like him and the director knew that like Joker was gonna go into the whole like, do you want to know how I got my scars thing? So like when he's grabbing her face and like putting the knife in her mouth and stuff and like doing all of that, like her reaction of like trying to pull away from him and everything is like 100% like genuine. And I'm just like trying to think to myself, like if I was in that situation and like this person is putting a knife in my freaking mouth, like I'm losing it. Like I am out of there.
Yeah. Oh, because I've read articles like that too, where like, the screaming in the scene is like actual like,
like them reacting. Yeah,
and, like,
exactly.
Stuff like that. It's kind of like, no thanks, man. I'm really cool with not having that experience being a part of my life.
Yeah, like I can't imagine being like, especially if like you're a like your niche is horror movies specifically, like I can't imagine the headspace that you are in as a person.
Right, because I think I don't have another example for this Vera Farmiga actress, but I know that I read somewhere else that she's like had other experiences like this on other horror movies that she's done. I'm just like, how could you continuously open yourself up to that? I feel like that's insanity.
I feel like if she's had one experience, I can understand that, because it's like you didn't know that this was going to happen, you wanted a good role, like makes sense. But if this happens and then you go and take another role, it happens again, you go and take another role, it happens again, it's like, girlfriend, go to a priest, get like a whole like get some holy water, like get out of this. You don't need this in your life.
Yeah, because another thing I had read particularly for The Conjuring is that she wouldn't bring the script home with her because it terrified her so much. It made her uneasy. And it's like, dude, I don't blame you. One look at that script and I'd be headed the other direction.
Yeah, I'm like, if you can't even bring the script with you, like maybe you should reconsider what you're doing for your roles.
Because I will say, I'm like, obviously not for all of these, but like maybe for the scratch marks thing. Like I think that if you have yourself in a creeped out of enough headspace, your mind could start playing tricks on you a little bit. Like that's definitely happened to me like after I've watched a horror movie, because I'm afraid of the dark. And I've definitely felt like, something has to be there out in the darkness. But like, what is that true? No, it's not. But also, I think it's a tricky little situation to be in, being an actor or, a crew member in a demonic possession film.
I agree with you. Thanks. And last comment before we can move on to your next one, about your whole, like when you watch horror movies and then you're freaked out.
Yeah.
Who's to say, because, when you watch things like this and you're putting yourself in this situation, you aren't inviting this like energy to come into your life. Who's to say that you're not feeling those things because you open the door because you're watching those scary movies?
That's why I usually don't watch demonic possession movies. Like the ones that I'm talking about are more so like monster stuff, because I'm not I'm not of my own like devices seeking out like demon movies. Absolutely not.
Didn't you specifically go watch Annabelle in like theaters?
I didn't seek that experience. I went because I was invited, and because like I always say, I'm down for the cause. Like when a friend invites me out somewhere, But
if you were to invite me to go see Annabelle in the theaters, I'd be like, Alex, no.
You know what's so funny is the other day when I was out with Lexi and Nicole, and Lexi wanted to see a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were deciding, like based off of what was out at the time, like what we were gonna go see, and we decided on Fast and Furious 9. And she said, like at the dinner, like we were eating Olive Garden, she said there, she's like, I would have said that we should watch the Purge movie, but that would only be if it was me and Alex. Since Nicole's here, we need to watch Fast whatever. So I'm just kind of like, automatically she thinks I'm just gonna be down for the Purge, which, you know, I'd see with extreme reticence.
Right.
I was like, I wouldn't say I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, like I mean, I would be the Nicole in this situation. Like if it was like us and like another friend, I'd be like, I'm ready to see Trolls World Tour. Like I would not be ready to see any horror movies.
But I will tell you, I will say that in instances where like I'm watching movies that involve demonic possession, usually like there afterwards, there's a lot. Well, one, I will say this, and you could say that it's a waste of money, I don't care, but I will very often, especially when things start getting scary, I won't look at the screen.
I mean,
I don't want it in my head. I really don't.
I get it. Mm-hmm.
But I will say afterwards, there's definitely a lot of prayer involved. I was like, I don't want this. Get this stuff away from me, Lord.
That's hilarious because you could just not watch it.
Yeah, I know. And I realize that it's a weird thing that I do where I'm just like, yeah, you know, I'm down because a friend asked me to go. It's just, you know, me trying to be a good friend, I guess. I don't know. That's not to say that if you don't do that, you're a bad friend or whatever.
Like, well, I'm a bad friend because I'm not gonna do it.
It's not at all what I'm saying. It's more
like
so
when Alex asked me, hey, do you want to go to horror nights? I'm like, no. No, Alex, I don't want to go.
Let's be real. I don't ask you to go to horror nights. I know my audience.
You've asked me like once, and I was like, no.
Oh man.
Anyway, move on to your next one.
Yeah. All right, so I got two more. So one is, I wouldn't say as much as of a horror movie, is just a weird movie. So Twilight Zone, the movie, which was released in the 1980s, I think 1983 to be exact. So the plot kind of here is irrelevant because I don't think it really has as much to do with what happened. So an actor on this movie, Vic Morrow, predicted his own death. So a year before filming, he took out a $5 million life insurance policy on himself because he had a premonition that something bad was going to happen to him in an upcoming movie. And lo and behold, while filming this movie, he was decapitated in a helicopter crash that also killed two child actors.
Oh my God. That is like, that went from like 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah. So that was
holy hell. Holy hell. Oh my God.
He predicted his own death.
That's really wild. But okay, here's the thing. I believe that maybe he like had a premonition, but he could have also manifested it since he went to the lengths of like getting life insurance on himself and like saying into the world, like, I'm going to die in this movie coming up, you know, like it could have been that he manifested it in his life. I don't know.
See, and my whole thing here is like, I obviously know that, you know, even people who make so much money have the instinct to work. Because like my whole thing is like, after doing a couple successful movies or whatever, you probably don't have to work for the rest of your life. You can really like live off that money if like you're just down to live modestly.
I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, I feel like it's also an issue of when you taste fortune, right, maybe you can't go back to like living like you and me, you know?
Right. Because I mean, I don't know much about this guy as an actor. I don't know how wealthy or not he was or what kind of money he was making, but I'm just kind of like, if the premonition was so bad, I'm just kind of like, maybe you should have just quit the biz. Just been like, I don't get good feelings from this anymore. I feel like this is stressing me out too much. I'm going to cease. Which obviously would have been better for him because he did get killed in a helicopter crash.
I mean, I agree with you, but if it was his time to go, it was his time to go. I don't know. That's all I gotta say about that.
I suppose so, yes. So next one, Poltergeist 1982. not going to go too much into the plot of this. It's another haunting movie where a kid is messing around with the ghosts and madness ensues. That's all you need to know. It's a classic trope. So, in this movie, there are 3 child actors ranging from like kind of young to like teenage years. So 2 of the actors who played the kids died during the making of this franchise. So one, Heather O'Rourke, who played the main kid who messes around with the ghost, died during an operation at the age of 12 while finishing up Poltergeist 3. And then the actress who played the original older sister, Dominique Dune, was murdered by an ex-boyfriend a day after the first movie premiered. So apparently the producer, Will Sampson, had the set of Poltergeist 2 exorcised because the cast and crew were really creeped out and he thought that the set was evil.
That's okay. That's like funny because it's funny that they attributed the set to being evil and not like the actions, because I feel like if the set was evil, like really bad things would happen while on set. But obviously these things happen like outside of the set.
And here's my whole thing, right? And we kind of talked about this a little bit ago. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I don't know what would motivate you to make these movies. As soon as any monkey business happens, like this, like crazy stuff, if it feels evil, business. Bye, man. I'm out. I don't need the money.
You know, it's the other kind of like
money.
You know, it's the other wild side to this, though, is like the directors and like not the directors, but the producers, maybe the writers. I don't know, the writers. Like the people who are coming up with the story, like how messed up are they?
Dude, for real.
Like if they're the ones like thinking it up, putting it into their universe.
I was actually wondering recently because I had seen a movie called The Separation. It's like a horror-ish movie. Again, saw it with Lexi, and then actually again with my dad. I know, whatever. And it made me think, like, what was the origin of like the horror genre where like a group of people decided this is gonna be a fun thing to do, to write stories that will terrify you.
See, that should have been like a subsection of this podcast, because that is an interesting thought. Like, when did horror become like a genre?
And why? Why would we do this to ourselves, man?
I mean, like, I get it. Like the adrenaline, the thrill. I get it. But like, who thought to do it? Like, who thought I'm going to put on a motion picture that depicts this child being possessed by a demon? You know, like, it's just such a wild thought to me. I mean, the original like horror movies, like The Blob, that one's, I mean, I feel like the original horror movies are more monster movie based.
Right. Well, then you kind of also have to think about like what the experience would have been like watching something like at the time that it came out, because of, you know, the progression of like special effects in movies and all this different stuff. So like, for example, my mom, when she first saw Ghostbusters, when it like first came out, was terrified of it, because at the time, you know, nothing like that had been made before. Like the effects at the time were like good effects.
Is the Ghostbusters the one with like Bill Murray?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. My dad, I know I just mentioned The Blob because recently, so The Blob is on HBO, and I know it's like, you know, like a famous like old horror movie. So like me and my mom watched
remakes too.
Oh, they made remakes?
I think that they did.
Oh, I watched the original one.
That's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Anyways, and so like me and my mom watched it because my mom had never seen it, and like we were just like literally watching it. We're like, this is the stupidest movie I've ever seen in my whole life. Like my mom was like, this is literally the worst movie ever. But then my dad came in and saw we were watching. He was like, you guys are watching The Blob? And we're like, yeah. He was like, man, when I saw that in theaters, I was freaked out. And I was like,
you see?
How?
Because at the time, it can be actually kind of scary. Although, yes, I imagine if like I were to sit down right now and watch The Blob, I'd be bored out of my mind.
It wasn't boring because it was like interesting to see how stupid it was.
I'm not
but,
sure
like,
if
it's
I'd
not
share
scary
that
at
thought
all.
with you, but yeah, I wouldn't think I'd be freaked out by it in the slightest. To be like,
No.
well, this is silly. But yeah, I mean, so the point to this for me is just kind of like, I think that maybe we just don't need to make demonic possession movies, and we could just leave that subgenre of horror alone.
I totally agree with you. I actually love like demonic possession or like anything paranormal, like the documentaries. Yeah. I love it. I live for it. Like anything and all things, I'll watch it. Just, recommend it to me. But when it's like made into movies and are meant to scare you, that's what I don't like. Like, I want to hear the facts of the story. I don't want jump scares.
I would actually even venture to say that, like, especially like, what listening to like BuzzFeed Unsolved and different things that, I have listened to. Even that stuff makes me uncomfortable listening to it, even like if it's just, the straight facts and not necessarily trying to scare you. It doesn't sit well.
I mean, I think you specifically probably don't like it because, being a Christian woman, is probably not what you want to be thinking about.
Not at all.
It interests me. I'm just like, it interests me. Like, okay, here's the thing. Maybe it interests me because I have like my family history rooted in like exorcisms with like my grandma having exorcisms and stuff. So like, it kind of like interests me from like a familial background. But yeah, like it's an unnerving topic, like for sure.
Yeah. Well, that was all I put down. Hope you
That's all I put
got
down.
something new from that.
I did, yeah. I only knew the Conjuring one, and there had been like other ones from other movies, but like I can't quite put my finger on them. Like I remember there was like one
Amityville horror ones too, like a Ryan Reynolds was being like waking up at like the time that like 317 or something when murders in those ones took place, dead body really? Washed up on shore, like where they were filming and stuff, like all this other stuff. Yeah, there's plenty of others.
Yeah. These are just interesting ones that you chose.
I was like, these are sufficient.
I feel you. I mean, I think that this topic is obviously for me is always very like, yes, bring it on. Let's talk about it. I'm surprised that you chose it because you're always like the skeptic. What is your thought on like a collectively all of these? Like, do you think that there's validity? Like what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that I'm more so leaning to the validity of the strictly demon ones, not the Twilight Zone and Poltergeist ones as much. I think that those I would lend to more being just like unfortunate accidents. Those three deaths, I guess, being unfortunate accidents. The stuff for the Conjuring, the Exorcism of Emily Rose, and the Possession, I think that there could be some validity to that, just because I think, in those situations where you're opening yourself up to spirits in that way, who knows what could happen. I think that it's all kinds of crazy to participate in a film of that kind. It's not at all like I couldn't do it. No.
Would you have go ahead.
So I think those could be possibly real.
Would you, like, let's say Lexi was like, hey, let's take a road trip and go visit the Conjuring house. Like, would you go?
No. I'm not down to do the whole like haunted sites thing. That's too much for me. That's inviting a little bit too much, I think. Because I think it's one thing, a movie on a screen and whatever, and I can, like close my eyes, plug my ears at certain parts where I'm getting too freaked out and like disengage from the whole thing. I'm not going to seek out a place that has said to have had like, demonic spirits there. That is not something that I'm going to intentionally seek out.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to be inviting you, so at least you know that.
I appreciate you not inviting me.
I've accidentally been to like haunted places, but not like intentionally. Because like when I was in San Diego, for example, in Old Town, like there's like the Walter House, I think it's called. I was like walking through, I was like, this is a cool historic site. And then later I found out it was like a really haunted site. I was like, oh, sick.
Yeah, right.
I also went to the Winchester House, but I did that on my own fruition.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a good time to me.
I thought it was fun, but anyway.
Yeah. So that's that.
That was fun, Alex. Oh, I'm loving this little trend we're doing. Like, I feel like, I mean, obviously every other week, like we have to do the research for like the weeks that like I get to like sit back and listen to you. Like, it's like, ooh,
who knows? Maybe more. Next time I do a topic, it won't be a Michael inspired topic.
I know. Maybe next time you do it, you'll decide it.
And Michael, when you listen to this is not to say that I don't appreciate your help, because I really, 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 really do. It's making things a lot easier for me.
See, honestly, Alex, I feel so like you should be so appreciative, because like Aaron doesn't even like listen to our podcast. So
I'm very, very appreciative. This is really helpful to me. And I like that Michael's so involved in listening to this stuff and be like, hey, like, this is really cool. I'm just like, hey man, thanks. This is nice. But anyway, so maybe it'll just be me and him creating the ideas.
A collaborative thing. We'll have to have him come on one, and like maybe he can like do a special episode where he tells us something.
Oh, maybe that'd be fun. I'll talk to him about it.
He'll hear it on this podcast.
Yeah, he'll listen. He'll maybe, because I'm not sure if he's 1 week behind.
Okay.
So in 2 weeks we'll talk about this probably in person when he hears this.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, because it was so funny. He listened to the presidential family dynasties one.
Right.
And like I just get this random text from him. He's just like, Schmidt was pretending to be Tad Romney. I'm just like, yes, we figure it out eventually. I understand. I know.
Love that. I love how he's just like, I have the answer for you 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Anyway, shout out to you, Michael. Thank you. And shout out to everyone else who's listening. I hope you guys are having fun this season. I know we are.
Yep.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next week, and I'll come in with a hot topic.
Bye.
Bye.